So the first thing then is website statistics. Who here monitors their website statistics? Okay, so probably just under half of you. Does any of you use Google Analytics? Quite a few people. I think it's the most fundamental thing you have to have in place when you're doing any kind of internet marketing is your website statistics, so that you can actually see, if you're doing paid advertising, you can see what those people are doing when they come to your site. If you've got links on different websites, how many are actually coming, what are they doing when they're on your site? If you do some search engine work, are you actually then getting more visitors to your website because you've done some search engine work? So if you haven't got any statistics in place, it's probably the starting point you need to look at, as far as I'm concerned. You can tell, as I said, like things like Visit Wales, how many visits you get from Visit Wales to your website? And are they good visitors or are they poor visitors? How many people are accessing your website on a mobile phone? Anyone got rough ideas of their own site? How many people? Yeah? 20%? 10? It's usually at least 10, at least 10%. They reckon by the end of the year, in the UK, 30% of all web traffic is going to be on a mobile. Okay, and we'll look at a bed and breakfast or a restaurant with rooms in a second, and that's got around 28% visitors on a mobile. So looking at your statistics, you can tell that information. That will help you decide whether you need to look at a mobile site more seriously for your business. It'll also tell you what search engines, phrases you're actually being found for, and a wealth of other information. What I'm going to do with Google Analytics, rather than show you some screenshots, I'll try and load in one on the screen now. It is probably the best in terms of the packages that are out there. If you haven't got it on your website at the moment, it'll probably take a web developer less than an hour to put in place. So it's a quick job. And it involves putting a bit of code on every page on your website, and then after that, you'll get that tracking information. So it's worth doing. So I'll just bring up, this is Gwesty Cymru in Aberystwyth, restaurant with rooms. And I haven't got time to go through everything on Google Analytics, but just a few of the key points and maybe some things you won't have seen before. This is when you log on there. The basic information is your number of visitors, the unique visitors, because obviously some people may have come more than once to the site. This is within the last month. Page views, pages per visit. So obviously the more pages per visit people are seeing, then obviously they're enjoying your site, or maybe they just can't find what they're looking for. And then things like the bounce rate. Does anyone know what the bounce rate is? Yeah? Yeah, so it's essentially people who land on a page on your website and then go straight back off again. 30 to 40% is pretty average. It's pretty what people get. Less than that is good. So again, that's another thing you should be looking at. A lot of people, when they look at Google Analytics, it's just limited to looking at those basic things. But what you can do at the top right, there's an option to change the date range. So if I just click on compare to previous period, then it will give me last month compared to this month, and it will give me little indicators of whether things have gone up or down. So an acid test, once you've had your website going for a year, is to look at whether this year you're doing better than last year, to see whether your marketing is actually working. Green is good, red is bad. But obviously there's a slight, going down slightly on there. On this site, you can see there's quite a large percentage of people that are looking at it on a mobile phone. Yes, 1,211 in the last 30 days, compared to 3,000. So it's quite a lot of people. If you're looking in more detail, I can go onto the actual devices that people are using to access it. So on this, you'll notice the iPad, which has got quite a large screen, has got quite a good bounce rate. If you look on the right-hand side, 32%. Whereas when I start going to some of the smaller screens, like a Samsung S3, it's got quite a high bounce rate. So although it looks that it's okay for mobiles, you can actually look on individual devices and see whether you're actually serving your customers properly. If you don't know what a Google Nexus 7 looks like, you can usually click on an image. I'll try a different one, and I'll give you a picture of what it looks like, just for your entertainment. You may also want to look at traffic sources. So I'm going to look at referrals here. So this is websites that are referring to this website. So I can see on here that this is the top 10 that are referring in the last month. Visit Wales up there, and I can see the average numbers of pages per visit. So obviously the more pages per visit I get from a website, then it's a better customer. I can also see the bounce rate per referring site as well. So if ever you're making a decision of whether you should still pay or still get involved with an organisation that you're paying money to every year, this is a good way to check. And it's not just about the numbers of visitors, it's also about the quality of the visitors. Do you have a lot that land on and then just bounce straight off again? And some will do more for you than others. If you want to get started with Google Analytics, this is the page you go to, Google/Analytics, and it will give you some code, but then you do need to install that on your website, which you may need to get your web developer to do. But it's not, once it's on there, it's sorted and then you can track it. So when you log into Google in future, you'll be able to see your statistics. So that's a reference slide. I've put there another reference slide about changing the dates. I think it's something that people don't do very often. And this is just a slide showing the key areas to monitor. Every month, at least, really, you should be looking and seeing what's happening. Are you getting more visits? What is happening to the mobile usage? All the sites I look at the moment, and I can compare year on year, the mobile usage is increasing all the time. Bounce rate, critical thing, and then obviously the standard ones, number of pages per visit, trying to get more engagement in your website. Depending on your type of business, people search for things more at different times of the year. So, say for example, we'd done some work on a website and then it all of a sudden started plummeting towards the end of the year. That's not because we did a bad job. It's because people search for it less. So this is just a phrase, holiday cottage, and we've done this on Google Trends, which doesn't cost anything to do. But by doing that, we can actually see how often people search for that particular phrase. So if you ran a holiday cottage, you would expect your statistics to track that to a degree. The other interesting thing with that as well, if you notice, this is January through to December. Does anyone here send Christmas cards, e-Christmas cards to their previous customers? No one? So a newsletter, what you need to do, what you can do is try and time your marketing so that it goes at the times when people are slightly more predisposed to be searching for what you're offering. So if you're sending an email, so if you're doing anything at Christmas for Holiday Cottage, you're wasting your time because it's the least likely time of the year people are going to be wanting to book. So if you did send a Christmas card, I would send a New Year's card instead, because that's the time when people are most likely to be looking. So it depends on what your business is, but there are trends. So you can time your marketing.